All right, it's still the Thursday edition of Kakaki, the African Voice, and the talking continues, and the topic remains the same.
Absolutely, and we're still addressing the issue of Nigeria must go protesting
Sounds
in
funny,
Ghana.
doesn't it?
Very funny, but very worrying as
Yeah.
well. And then this time we're looking at a civil society perspective, and we have joining us our guests, Austin Aibe, Advocacy Officer, Echoes Liaison Lead, and West Africa Democracy Solidarity Network. It's good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have
Good
you.
to have you. Good to see you.
Yeah.
All right. Of course, the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs met with her counterpart in Ghana yesterday. What do you make of the evaluation of the meeting? And in fact, against the heels of people are saying that this is just a simple issue that's being blown out of proportion.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me begin by thanking the Ghanaian authority.
Okay.
Because it is important. If you miss its history, you are never going to be able to move forward. The Nigerian government was the one who asked Ghana to go. In this case, it's the citizens, and the government is saying no. So it's a different thing, because I know a lot of conversation has been on about it's playback. So it's not playback. Let's establish that fact.
Okay.
The second one is that the Ghana authority recognize the contributions of Nigerians to that country. They do. In every society, there will always be the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's a pity that when you criticize Nigerians because they may be a handful, one or two or three, had misbehaved, but all of the other 1,000 and 2,000 that have done very well, they are insignificant. And it worries me, not just us, it is a Nigerian spirit. By privilege, I haven't gone around part of the world. I understand what the Nigerian mean. As a Nigerian, anywhere you go, you dominate. Unconsciously. It is not that you deliberately want to dominate. It happens unconsciously. You just see yourself being assertive. Because every Nigerian is an assertive individual. You know, that's why they say that Nigerians need to carry last. And that phenomenon tend to have a way of impacting us negatively. I had a challenge when I was in a group of students. Okay, we were all students. One from Turkey, South Sudan, an American, of course, myself, Nigerian. And before I knew what was happening, one of them, I think the Turkey lady, went to report me to my professor. And what was the problem? That I was too domineering in a group of 4. And I said, how can I be? No, I just took lead when nobody was doing something. And my professor said, no, you know what? Nigerians and Americans share some of this kind of domineering spirit. That anywhere an American is, you will notice, and anywhere Nigerian is. And she was telling me from evidence that everywhere around the world, when Americans stand, and you easily know that this is an American. When a Nigerian stands, you easily know that this is a Nigerian. Then I should always be conscious of it. And since then, when I'm away and I'm in a group of non-Nigerians, I tend to be very conscious now, because my domineering spirit was out of unconsciousness. But right now, I am very conscious.
Austin, isn't that dangerous? You could be accused of being a snob.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. Now you have to be conscious. So right now, I wouldn't quickly speak. I would like to speak when sometimes I take permission unconsciously. I said, wait, can I intervene? And they went, oh yeah, intervene. I wanted to intervene since so. But because I now understand who we are, that this thing is domineering inside of us, there is no need to. That's also, if you come back home, that's the challenge at home. Everyone wants to dominate another. So when you go out, because those other individuals don't have that domineering spirit, they are less. If you go to Kenya, Tanzania, Ghana is good, even what I hear from Ghana. But with all due respect, with the narrative that's on, there's a bit of false narrative. Bit of false narrative. The whole challenge about Nigeria must go didn't just start now. It started more than a decade ago. Even though that campaign was not as high as today. About 2011, 2012, Ghanaians who were the petty traders began to find it difficult to trade properly because Nigerians were not doing that same petty trading with them in the normal market. That as a foreigner, you ought not to be in that level. You should be at the higher level. Why are you selling the kind of things we sell? Because at the end of the day, Nigerians will have a way to be more competitive, reduce the cost. You know that is everywhere in Abuja.
Yes.
You go to a typical shop, what they buy for 5,000, a certain individual will sell it for 3,000 and sell another one for 8,000 and meet up the threshold. But those the Ghanaian market may not understand that market philosophy, and Nigerians will go there and begin to sell for that very expensive thing, sell it cheap because it's going to sell it higher the next day. But that was a problem, and they said they should leave their own market. And usually the Igbos community, which is largely those communities in those markets, began to say, okay, can we not have our own area where maybe people can come and then do it, which is everywhere around the world anyway. And I say this very with evidence. There is Chinatown in New York. There is Chinatown in Luanda, in Angola. There are Chinese who are selling on the street in Tanzania, in Dar es Salaam. Absolutely. In fact, I saw a Chinese man speaking Swahili to me in Dar es Salaam, selling in that local market. But that was not a problem. Apparently, maybe because of their skin or what, that's a different ballgame. I'm not talking about racism at this time. Then, fast forward, that video that was made around that 2012 resurfaced only recently. That this king, an Igbo king, now want to have an Igbo kingdom. And the narrative went blizzard. And they started mobilizing. And for my beloved country, Ghana, because I love Ghana a lot. I'm always in Ghana. Every other minute, I'm in Ghana. They are used to believing everything on the online. Let me not generalize it. But a bulk of countries in West Africa that have taken lead in believing most of the narrative from Burkina Faso, all of the fake narrative is Ghana, to the point that they even protested in support of fake news emanating from a country, even telling their own government that they want to go the route of Burkina Faso. So when I see people doing that kind of thing, I say, oh, these people need to be able to have a lot of information countering system in a way that they don't end up using fake news to destroy their beloved country. Largely what is happening in Ghana, the Nigerian must go. Of course, there are all manner of ills. I won't take that away. I mean, I'm sure that Ghanaians in Nigeria, if you go to the record of the Nigerian police force, there would have been 1 or 2 Ghanaians who may have been arrested for crime. That may be low. But in terms of population density, Nigerians in Ghana is a lot.
Yeah, there are about 2 million Nigerians in Ghana at the time the data was released in 2024. But let's look at the specifics, Mr. Austin. One of the things that, a lot of the protesters in large numbers were wielding placards read one inscription such as "Armed robbery and violent attacks must stop. Our healths are at stake due to mass prostitution," quote unquote. And "who protects the right and freedom of Ghanaians? Nigerians are kidnapping and using people for rituals. Our kids are getting missing because of Igbos." They used the word there. And one of the other things, I think you've also mentioned it, is that Nigerians have taken over our major markets and perpetrating evil of all sorts in the country. Now, again, this narrative was said to have been played up by a presidential candidate in Ghana who was feeding off, the anti-Nigerian, sentiments. How dangerous is this, and what can be the festering effect of this conversation if not nipped in the bud? I know that the Foreign Affairs Ministry has waded in, but in the social context, there are layers of undiscussed issues, and how can we get to this?
I think first of all is to know the fact of the matter. Because when you introduce a political dimension to this kind of narrative, it becomes sentimental. For instance, if a presidential candidate who lost election, who is gradually becoming irrelevant, so sees an opportunity to upscale and then put up a number of issues on the table. It is possible, and that fellow you mentioned in one of his interviews said, "This king has met with everybody. He met with the former president. So apparently he has not met with him. Maybe he wants that meeting, so that, because the Igbo king tends to support certain things on the ground. I recall in one of the interviews I also listened to that the Igbo community put up resources together to build a school in one of those communities. Apparently, that could snowball to some of the things that, why don't you come also do it in my own community, so that I could begin to use that as political narrative, that I brought in XYZ to our community. But you see, that's where the government comes into play. And that's why I started by saying I need to commend, because the government, the authorities in Ghana, hadn't taken that route.
Exactly.
They understand that the contribution of Nigerians is enormous vis-a-vis their disruptive narrative. I mean, talking about prostitution. I mean, we have had that. Was it not recently they were trafficking of young girls up like 13, 14, not just in Ghana. That's a concern. Human trafficking in Nigeria is, well, I don't want to say it has gone to the highest level. It went very high at some point, and the likes of the wife of the former governor of Edo, Idia Igbinedion, began to look at those, particularly foreign trafficking, Italy and elsewhere. And now it is not just the camera is no longer on the Edo trafficking. It's now on the Nigerian trafficking.
Absolutely.
That far away in Cape Verde, Nigerians, young girls are being trafficked. So it's not about Ghana. It's a business. And we must deal with that business. And that's also the business, maybe if I just flip the coin a bit, the kind of drug trafficking in the Sahel. The crime, the criminality, the terrorism in the Sahel is largely correlated with the drug trafficking in that route. And human trafficking and drug trafficking tend to work pari passu. So we must, Nigerian government need to work with the Ghanaian authority to stop that trafficking and bring perpetrators to book. Deal with the criminals. What the Ghanaian authority need to do is to arrest criminals. Whether they are Nigerians, they are Kenyans, whoever they are, deal with them, arrest them. And during the election in December, I was in one of the the police station. And I went visiting the police station to try to just ask a few questions. And the police officer said, you're Nigerian? I said, yes. He said, your brothers are inside here. They was telling me that they were inside the prison. I mean, the station. And I said, oh, doing what? He said, your brothers, you know them now. And I said, but again, not all my brothers are there. I said, Ghanaians are there too? He said, yes, of course. I said, other foreign nationals there? He said, yes, but Nigerians are more. I said, because our population is more.
Also, can you hold your thoughts there? Because we are being joined from Ghana by a former AIT journalist, Richard Oklozaba, who's joining us. Richard, many thanks for popping into Kakaki from Ghana.
Good morning to you all.
Yeah. Can you give us your own perspective on what has happened? Some people have said it's a storm in a teacup, not much to worry about, while others are expressing all kinds of concerns, safety, what have you. What's your perspective of the whole issue?
Exactly. First of all, thank you for having me on the show. And I greet all my brothers and sisters in Nigeria. This exactly that you said, that it is not an issue in Ghana where today we will say Nigerians must go. No, I don't think that it's what Ghanaians are saying. We will call those people, those are few people who we saw on the street making those demand or comment. I think that they are just taking the opportunity of what democracy is all about, that if you have a concern, go on the street. But they're not representing Ghana for that statement. So I want to affirm that the government and Nigeria shared a deep historical bond, politically, culturally, and spiritually. We have stood side by side, in ECOWAS, in Pan-Africanism, and in family. We have families across nations. And that's why I was deeply encouraged that we cannot allow some of these things to happen. You saw, yesterday I saw the news, and quickly our foreign minister came in and said that this matter will be handled in no time. So I don't think anybody should be worried about this. Of course, then it came to me that this could be political opposition motivation to just tarnish the current president's name with all sort of things. So we some of us here we don't. In fact, I didn't even see the whole thing until the news, and that shocked me. And I was like, no, this is not the view of Ghana, and nobody should take this as an issue.
Okay, so I guess it's not getting as much publicity as it's probably getting here.
Not at all, not at all. I tell you, I was on the news yesterday in the evening where even my wife was saying, where is this even happening? And I said, I thought maybe it was even in Nigeria. So later on, before I saw that it rather happened in Ghana. So it wasn't an issue in Ghana at all. It's just a few micro, people who were. I wonder why they're even give them right to do that. But because, like I said, it's just because that right is for them or is there for anybody to, So they took the advantage of that to be on the street on that kind of a message, which for me it's wrong. And Ghanaians that I know, our brothers and sisters will not call for this at all.
All right. So what would you say is the relationship between Nigerians and Ghanaians as we speak? Because again, there have been conversations that these sort of protests that they have underlined, the disgruntled conversations that have not been addressed. What is the relationship so far?
Well, that concern has been there. I've run a few couple of stories when they say Nigerians are selling items or things that Ghanaians are supposed to be selling, and they have to be the host. So that concern has been there for a very long time. But I think that it has died down. By the time I reported this story, it was around 6 or 7 years ago. So I have never heard anything like this. But then they brought in new information, which of course they talk about raping, kidnapping, and rituals. That is a serious concern. That if some sort of this thing happening, I think they should go to the authority to report some of this thing, not on the street, on such a thing. I mean, if that happens to me, it's a concern though. Then it has to be, issue on the ground for the authority to take on, not for this. Maybe it has been said, and the authority, but still, it does not give any chance. It does not give anybody chance to be on the street, even to call off Nigerians must go. No, I don't buy for that one. But so largely, there wasn't any concern much to where we are. We wake up today and to see that this is what is happening. No. So relationship between Ghanaians and Nigerians, for me, that was those days when we make stories on business.
Yeah.
You see Nigerians, Nigerians are not supposed to sell retails, and they are doing that. And I think that has been solved because there was no news about it anymore. So if this rape or whatever ritual that they're talking about, they must go to the authority to report some of these things, not on the street.
All right. Thank you so much, Richard, for joining us, and we wish you all the best. And please, eyes on the ball.
Okay, Richard Oklud-Zaba, a typical example of the relations between Nigeria and Ghana. Richard is a former colleague of ours, former photojournalist. Good to see you once again, and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
All right, we'll come back here in the studio. Also, just as you round off, I know that, while you respond to some of the things he said, I know that the Ministry of Interior in Ghana, the Peace Council in Ghana, does have guidelines on hate speeches and, defamatory, conversations around indigenous. And they've said they've looked at it as harassing or stigmatizing speech which affects an individual or group's dignity, reputation, and status in society by means of verbal or visual effects that promote negative feelings and attitudes. So there is a guideline. There is a modus operandi in Ghana that speaks against this kind of anti-Ghanaian, sentiments. And I'm still referring back to the politician, because what would be the punitive measure? How can they stop anybody else, politician or not, from furthering this kind of conversations that may fester issues like this in that conversation? Well,
at this time, one has to be very conscious, because you don't want to press charges and it look as if you are fighting your citizens against foreign national. Mm-hmm. And I think that for someone like John D. Mahama, that I a bit know closely,
he's one of us.
Yeah, he's one of us.
He grew up in
Kwara State. So, and even while John Atta Mills is the president, while he was vice president, Atta Mills we share. I'm a Ford Fellow. Atami is a Ford Fellow. Met several meetings in New York. That's the reality. You see a peaceful individual, and I think he has transferred that to John D. Mahama. But that is not enough, because if you don't deal with this issue, something else will happen in the future. So you deal with these issues by nipping it on the bud. Identify who began the narrative.
Indeed.
Maybe it's not even the politician, but the politician may have actually amplified it. The problem started online with that video of a kingdom, to the point that traditional rulers in Ghana had a press conference. They had an emergency meeting to discuss a supposed kingdom, Igbo kingdom in Ghana. And they end up saying no kingdom apart from the one they already have. The Ashanti, the title, the biggest title in Ghana, is the one over. That narrative began from the so-called AI narrative that makes it look as if an Igbo man is coming to have a kingdom, not just being a king, because you can have a king, as they are actually attributed, that you can have a community and have a king. But to not have a kingdom, they are two separate things. Deal with the issues. The one who amplified it, you deal with it, because my fear is about the future of Ghana. The people are protesting. I don't always want to undermine people, even though our colleague said they are a young few. A young few that is organized can easily recruit more. You saw they had clothing, they had cards, they were organized. It means they could easily recruit. I tell you, there were people who joined that protest because the sentiment just agree with theirs. People began to join because,
These Nigerians.
Yes, these Nigerians. And they just join, and that's how you recruit people. And that's how movement begins. So we must nip it, and I'm happy, like I said, that the Ghanaian authority is not siding with that narrative. And more importantly, we must also, I see some narrative in the Nigerian media, not AIT, that talked about a xenophobic. There is nothing like that. Don't create narrative that doesn't exist.
Or amplify negative.
Because can you say that I was trying to look around that Nigerians have been killed. Have they been attacked? The protest was just to send message. And I think their objective have been achieved. But they must also take it to the next level.
You even have families calling families in Ghana to find out if you're safe.
I had to call my colleagues to say, well, what am I hearing? They said, what are you hearing? They said, leave them. They don't know what they do. Which means, like he said, many Ghanaians don't. Again, there is no statistics to measure many. There are individuals who would like to protest, but they don't just want to protest. There are many who may be protesting in their homes, who may be, because they send a message. One of them sent a message to the landlord that Nigerians will come, rent one bedroom flat, about 50 people will be in the room. We have that in Nigeria, it's not just in Ghana. But I even wonder how people are able to live in Ghana. Ghana is very expensive, particularly Accra. People don't know. And when I see short videos on air talking about you put CDs on the table and you put Naira on the table, the difference. And I think people don't understand what is an economic terms. You don't know what is called a PPP, the purchasing power parity. What I buy, $50 in Nigeria, I may need about $70 or $80 conversion to buy it in Ghana.
Yeah.
Maybe not everything, but particularly what you eat. Accommodation.
No, you can't go to accommodation.
Hotels.
Yeah.
You see,
I've spent a couple of times in hotels in Ghana too. Really.
It's crazy.
I know what you're talking about.
And you run back.
Yeah, as quickly as possible.
You have to run away.
Yeah. Also, I think we're going to have to leave it like that for now. We've been speaking with Austin Aigbe, and we've been looking at the Nigeria Must Go, do we call it a saga or syndrome? It seems like
just call it a disinformation campaign.
Disinformation campaign, yeah. So that means there's little to worry about. Austin, many thanks for your time
Always.
and useful
Thank you so much.
insight.
Thank you. All right, don't go anywhere.